on the possible motive of the accused gunman.
Why did Kimberly Mays run away?
They're trying to find out what made him go on that bloody shooting rampage and if he was part of a conspiracy. Eric Sean has the latest on this case, including some exclusive details on what Rashad Baz told police.
Rashad Baz launched his one-man terrorist-style attack because he hates Jews and vowed to revenge the mosque massacre. Or he impulsively opened fire on the van full of Hasidic Jewish students because they had cut him off in traffic. Police sources say Baz gave both conflicting stories as the reason why the Lebanese-born Brooklyn livery cab driver allegedly strafed the van as it drove across the Brooklyn Bridge, wounding 4 yeshiva students and leaving one 16-year-old Ari Haberstam brain dead. A high-ranking police source has told Fox News Baz has given a lengthy written and videotaped confession admitting he opened fire with 2 guns because, quote, I had a Palestinian scarf and they cursed at me, and I yelled back, blank you, Jews.
We assumed that this was, and please understand this is not meant to alarm anyone, we assumed that it would be as if it were a clear, absolute, definite terrorist attack. It wasn't clearly that. It may turn out to be, it may turn out not to be. But we assume that for purposes of the police department deploying police officers and providing protection.
Baz was arraigned overnight, held on no bail, charged with 15 counts of attempted murder, assault, and weapons possession. His lawyer told the court, cops caught the wrong man. And he told me there is no reason to believe Baz is part of a terrorist conspiracy. But he had no comment when I asked if Baz knew blind Muslim fundamentalist cleric Sheikh Omar Abdurrahman or the other Islamic suspects accused of bombing the World Trade Center.
There's nothing more that could be done that isn't being done if we had come to the conclusion that this was a conspiracy.
32-year-old Haile Mohammed and 27-year-old Bassem Riyadi, the owner of Baz's car service, were also arrested, accused of hiding the car and weapons Baz allegedly used in the attack. For if Baz had not supposedly blown out his passenger side window in the car when he opened fire, he would have been a lot harder to catch. A motorist driving over the Brooklyn Bridge when the attack erupted frantically called 911 on his car phone, giving what police call a play-by-play description of the shooting. Authorities are praising the Good Samaritans who flooded police hotlines with tips, and a Jewish Lubavitcher leader is grateful to Arab New Yorkers who helped cops track down Baz.
We thank the Arab community for their cooperation in this situation and in helping to apprehend the suspects.
Authorities don't know if they're dealing with a wider terrorist conspiracy or the lone impulsive action of an apparent maniac. But so far, the only other 2 suspects arrested are accused of helping Baz after the shooting and not of planning and plotting an unspeakable and repulsive act. I'm Eric Sean, Fox News, Manhattan.
A wild chase ended with the arrest of a man wanted for a deadly...
Believed that the guns used on Tuesday's attack on the Hasidic students on the Brooklyn Bridge were to have been used for future terrorist attacks designed to cripple the Middle East peace process. Rashad Baz is said to have been the gunman in the attack. Baz and the 2 men charged with helping him reportedly belonged to a militant group of fundamentalists that has been under observation before the bloody attack. ABC News says the surveillance was carried out by both the Federal Bureau of Investigation and by agents of Mossad, the Israeli intelligence service. Diana Williams has been looking into these new developments this evening and has a report.
Well, Bill, ABC News tells us that their information comes from 4 independent sources. ABC does not confirm that Baz was acting on orders from a terrorist group in Tuesday's attack on the Brooklyn Bridge. He clearly may have acted on his own. But ABC does report these men belong to a militant group under investigation.
According to ABC News, 28-year-old Rashad Baz and the 2 other men arrested were members of a militant Arab group in Brooklyn, a group that the FBI and Israeli intelligence had been watching for some time. Police found a stash of weapons, and according to ABC, these guns were part of a larger supply, and that members of the terrorist group were planning future attacks in order to disrupt the Middle East peace process. ABC tells us that immediately after the shooting, several people associated with the group fled the country. This man, Bassem Riyadi, ran the Pioneer car service where Baz worked. Riyadi and 32-year-old Hilal Muhammad were arrested for allegedly helping Baz after the shooting, hiding the car and the weapons. But family members deny the 2 men were involved.
Can be criminal for nothing. This is a terrible thing, really. I think the guy, he did it, he's sick or he crazy, but my husband, he don't was with him in the car when he shoot the people. Why they arrest him?
My husband is innocent.
He's innocent?
Yes, he is.
All three men were in Manhattan Criminal Court, where Boz was labeled the lone gunman. So far, New York City police deny reports of any terrorist link to the shootings. Police tell us, we've been working closely with the Joint Terrorist Task Force. So far, no motive for the shootings is known, and there is no connection with any Syrian-based group. This evening, Mayor Giuliani fielded questions about the shooting on a radio talk show. We talked with him afterwards and waited while he made a call to the FBI in Washington. The mayor says he knows of no terrorist connection.
I've checked with the police commissioner. The police commissioner has spoken directly to the head of the FBI in New York, and both of them together say that this is not something based on information that they have.
And a spokesperson for the mayor and the New York Police Department called us late this evening and told us that Mayor Giuliani had talked at length with the director of the FBI in Washington, Louis Freeh. We were told that the FBI has no information about the terrorist link involving the three suspects. ABC News, though, tells us they stand by the story. Bill?
Okay, Diana, thank you.
Yeshiva students is being held without bail tonight, and two other Arab men were charged today with helping him get rid of the guns used in the attack. But as Channel 2's Chris Borgen reports, so far, police will not call it a conspiracy.
The 28-year-old Rashad Boz was arraigned this morning in court and charged with 15 counts of attempted murder, along with 4 counts of first and second-degree assault, 2 counts of criminal use of firearms, and 4 counts of possession of firearms. The prosecutor told the court that witnesses had picked Boz out of 2 separate lineups, and during questioning, Boz had admitted, he said, in writing and on videotape, having fired at the bus in anger, allegedly because the bus had cut him off in traffic. Police say they got on to Boz after he was said to have pulled his damaged car into this repair shop in Red Hook and was seen holding a gun to the proprietor's head, demanding that he repair the windows damaged by gunfire. A workman, hearing the news of the shooting on the radio, then put 2 and 2 together and called the police, who traced Boz to his home here in the Sunset Park section of Brooklyn. While police will not close the door on a possible conspiracy in the shooting, they are more and more inclined to believe that Rashad Boz acted alone when he allegedly fired that fusillade of shots at the van filled with rabbinical students. However, within hours of Boz's arrest, police picked up 2 other suspects. 32-year-old Halil Mohammed, who police say tried to help Boz by hiding the car allegedly used in the shooting and by picking up some 15 shell casings from the floor of that car and discarding them in a dumpster. The second man, 26-year-old Bassam Rayeti, owner of the Pioneer Car Service in Red Hook, where Boz worked as a chauffeur and a driver. After being told of the shooting, Rayeti is alleged to have provided a car to drive Boz and a bag load of guns to the Boz home in Sunset Park. Then, to help remove the bullet-shattered windshield from the blue Chevy Boz is said to have used in that attack on the bus. Police say there is no evidence that either man had any prior knowledge of the attack, so they were not charged with conspiracy or acting in concert.
They're accessories after the fact. They assisted the principal defendant in some aspects of activity after the fact, after the shooting.
The 3 defendants, Boz, Rayeti, and Mohammed, are all due back in court for the next hearing scheduled for March 8th. In the Sunset Park section of Brooklyn, I'm Chris Borgen, Channel 2 News.
A day of mourning for lives lost in the massacre.
The police say the Lebanese national claims he started shooting as a result of a traffic dispute. Meanwhile, the Manhattan DA's office says Boz was identified in 2 separate lineups. He also gave police written and videotaped statements, and sources say shell casings found in Boz's car matched those found at the scene of Tuesday's shooting.
Well, for the families of the victims of that tragic shooting, it is now a matter of waiting and hoping. News 4's Gabe Pressman talked with the mother of one of the victims. Sarah Rivka Sasonkin's son, Nachum, remains in critical condition with a severe head wound. His chances for survival are slim, but his mother believes in miracles.
I asked if recovery has been seen in comparative cases, and I was told definitely yes. Strange things have been seen.
And while family and friends pray in a chapel at St. Vincent's Hospital, Sarah Sasonkin says she's trying to look to the future and her son's wedding.
A victory for New Jersey Governor Chris.
This act of evil is not the act of a people, it's the act of a person for persons. Let's show America and the world that we can make that distinction.
Nearly as I can determine, no one has actually done anything wrong or attempted to improperly influence any government action. But I think it would be better if the meetings and conversations hadn't occurred.
No doubt about it, if you're asking for fear.
Japan objects as President Clinton.
But so far, police are not calling it a conspiracy. CBS News correspondent Jacqueline Adams reports.
Authorities have not officially classified the attack on a van load of Jewish students as a terrorist incident, but sources say they are treating it as such, checking on links between the alleged shooter, Rashad Baz, the car service he worked for, and the Brooklyn mosque that was home to several of the alleged conspirators involved in the World Trade Center bombing. At one point, Baz reportedly told police his attack was an act of vengeance for last week's massacre of Palestinians preying on the West Bank. Now there are real fears New York has become another Middle East battleground.
There is a community of Jews and a community of Arab immigrants in that city, and they carry with them the passions, the prejudices of the Arab-Israeli conflict from back home.
Can the FBI and the New York City Police Department put an end to it? Not in the short term. There are too many people out there. They're not part of a terrorist hierarchy.
But even the former head of the FBI's field office in New York says there's no way to protect against the lone gunman, the crazed zealot, which at this point in the investigations, both Baruch Goldstein in Hebron and Rashad Baz in Brooklyn appear to be.
As long as we have open borders and open cities, we can't be protected from the lone zealot.
So will the violence ever stop? Some suggest the answer lies with the religious and political leaders on both sides.
If we want to stop the crimes, we've got to stop the ideologies that create atmospheres in which such crimes are justified.
In one small way, the Brooklyn attack may have brought the two sides closer. Leaders of the Jewish sect to which the wounded students belong today went out of their way to thank their Arab neighbors who led police to the suspects. Jacqueline Adams, CBS News, New York.
Meantime, there appears a van filled with rabbinical students on Tuesday is being held without bail this morning. That suspect, Rashad Baz, has a Lebanese passport. Two other men charged in connection with the case are Jordanian. ABC News has learned some new information about the suspects. Here's ABC's Karen Burns.
According to law enforcement and intelligence sources, the three individuals arrested in connection with the shooting on the Brooklyn Bridge were members of a community in Brooklyn of militant Arabs that the FBI's counter-terrorist task force and the Mossad have been watching for some time. Investigators tell ABC News that they believe the guns found in suspect Bassam Rayati's home were part of a larger supply meant to be used in future terrorist attacks aimed at disrupting the Middle East peace process. The investigators have also been monitoring Pioneer car service for some time. Rashad Baz, the alleged gunman, worked for Pioneer, and his alleged accomplice, Bassam Rayati, ran the service. Rayati's wife and the dispatchers say they were unaware of the presence of any weapons.
That's one thing we wouldn't know. I never see him with no guns at all. Never.
When police searched the home of Rashad Baz, they reportedly found Islamic prayer beads and anti-Semitic literature. Although all three suspects attended local mosques, they are not believed to be associated with followers of Sheikh Omar, some of whom are on trial for the bombing of the World Trade Center. What is still unclear is whether the shooting was a spontaneous act in response to the Hebron massacre or part of a planned operation by a larger group. Karen Burns, ABC News, New York.
And New York Mayor Rudolph Giuliani says the FBI tells him it has no information about any terrorist link to the three suspects.
The movie Schindler's List opened in theaters across Germany yesterday. The cinematic trip into the country's Nazi past is sure to be traumatic. The movie uses the story of one Nazi who saved many Jews to show the horrors of the Holocaust. ABC's Jim Bitterman reports on the initial reception the movie is receiving in Germany.
Everyone should see this film, one newspaper wrote, and Germans began lining up for a painful 3-hour-long confrontation with their past. And the story of the triumph of what's called here the good German against Nazi tyranny moved some to tears.
It shows that one person, if he is a good person, can change something in this world.
I think it's very important for all the world, not only for Germans.
The problem, said one German critic, is that the people who will see this film are not the people who should see this film.
referring to those in Germany who support extreme right-wing or neo-Nazi activities.
But in Mannheim, Germany, there was an effort to broaden the audience. The owner of a local theater, who believes Schindler's List will be his most important, if not his best attended film this year, went to the toughest high school in town, where some openly express far-right beliefs, and invited 60 students to come to his theater for a private screening. From the start, most were drawn into the film, although a handful of students with extremist opinions sat out part of it. One young man went home halfway through. It's perverse, he said. School is boring, but I'd rather be in school than watching this. Still, 90% stayed to the end.
We have certain groups like neo-Nazis who should definitely see the film.
No one was moved as much as their social studies teacher. The movie, she said, did far more than any words to reach the students. Said another, if this film changes the opinion of just one extreme right-wing young person in Germany, then the film is a success. Jim Bitterman, ABC News, Frankfurt.
And back.
Is charged with 15 counts of attempted murder and is being held without bail after an arraignment yesterday. Rashad Baz's lawyer suggests he is the wrong man. But police say Baz had a small arsenal in his car, and witnesses later identified him in two lineups. Two other men, both Jordanians, were charged with hindering prosecution.
The judge
will not be one brand. You've got to have something else to do other than stand around on corners.
Later, the mayor arriving at the world headquarters for the Lubavitch Hasidic movement. A brief meeting with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Menachem Schneerson.
I'm confident that with the good people of all of our communities, we will come together, both sides, we will come together and do those things necessary to protect everyone.
It was a 4 to 5 minute meeting, the Rebbe greeting the mayor warmly and extending his blessings for the mayor to help heal the city. The Rebbe said to the mayor that there are no two sides here, but we are one people living under one God, under one government, in one city.
That deadly attack on a van full of students. While tonight, Mayor Giuliani paid a call on the parents of the teen killed in the shooting. And the Lubavitchers now have new worries about the health of their spiritual leader. We have team coverage starting with Eric Shawn on Rashad Baz's appearance at the courthouse, where many said they want the death penalty.
He has the face of a terrorist, he has the eyes of a terrorist, and that's all I have to say.
The civic student Yitzhak Falter was drawn to criminal court to see the face of the alleged killer for himself. He stared at Rashad Baz, the 28-year-old Lebanese-born Brooklyn cab driver, accused of the hideous act of opening fire on a van full of Jewish Lubavitcher students on the Brooklyn Bridge, leaving 4 wounded, among them 16-year-old Ari Haberstam, who died this weekend.
It hurts us all, and the guy should have the death sentence, to say the least.
At his arraignment, Mr. Baz's counsel had indicated that Mr. Baz wished to testify before the grand jury.
Baz said nothing in court. It was up to his lawyers to argue for their client, claiming the statements he gave police, purportedly blaming the Hasidics for cutting him off in traffic, should not be used against him because they claim cops questioned him unfairly. But his defense team fully expects Baz to be charged with Haberstam's murder.
Do you consider your client a terrorist who hates Jews and went gunning after Hasidics on the bridge?
Absolutely not.
Has he ever expressed that? What do you consider? What do you consider him? Has he ever expressed hatred toward people of other faiths?
We are learning about his personality the way we can over a short period of time. He is an unspectacular individual, other than the fact that he is an Arab Muslim charged with a violent crime. That's the reason why he's been referred to as a terrorist.
2 other suspects who allegedly helped Baz were also in court. Ali Muhammad, who is still out on bail, and Bassem Riyadi, Baz's car service owner. His lawyer also denies any terrorist connections.
Having heard the other media coverage and heard from the FBI and the mayor, etc., he's not part of any terrorist group. He's just a regular person who came to this country to try to make a living and be like us.
But the Lubavitchers are calling for a federal probe of the shooting.
We want a full-fledged federal investigation as to how he acted, whether he acted alone, whether he's part of a ring, who was his real target.
The suspects return to court in 2 weeks. That's when Boz will probably learn whether he's been indicted for murder. And while his lawyer still claims police caught the wrong man, the Lubavitcher community is demanding that authorities find out if Boz allegedly acted alone or was part of a terrorist hit. I'm Eric Shawn, Fox News at Manhattan Criminal Court.
The leader of the Lubavitchers, Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, is back in the hospital tonight. He suffered a round of seizures this morning. Penny Crone is outside the hospital where the Grand Rebbe is recovering. How is he doing, Penny?
Well, right now, doctors here at the hospital say the Rebbe is resting comfortably. He remains in stable condition here at the hospital. Dozens of young followers have been praying for his recovery. The unanswered question, did the Rebbe suffer another stroke because of last week's shootings? It's called davening. It's a ritual during prayer. A stream of Rabbi Menachem Schneerson's followers has spent today praying for their Grand Rebbe's recovery. Early this morning, the 91-year-old leader of the Lubavitchers suffered severe seizures. He was brought from the Lubavitch headquarters in Crown Heights to the hospital for joint diseases.
He's not a young man. He's had significant medical illnesses. I don't think we could say that anything is never potentially life-threatening for anyone, certainly in his age group. But right now, he's in stable condition, and I think he's doing well, and I'm optimistic.
A week ago today, the Rebbe underwent cataract surgery at Eye, Ear, and Throat Hospital in Manhattan. The shooting in which one of his young followers was killed and 3 others wounded happened as Schneerson was on his way home from that hospital. Doctors have pretty much ruled out that incident prompted today's seizures.
Sometimes seizures are related to stress, but in many cases not.
The Rebbe was partially paralyzed by a stroke 2 years ago. Despite his failing health, his followers continue to be optimistic.
He has always maintained a youthful attitude and atmosphere about him. In the youth organization that he organized several years ago, he said that everybody up to 120 is qualified. I think he set an example, and we still regard him as a young man.
Now, security here at the hospital is very tight, and everyone concerned said they are pleased with the job the police are doing. Doctors say hopefully the Rebbe will be able to return home by the end of the week. Reporting live from Gramercy Park, I'm Penny Crone, Fox News. Now back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Penny, for that report. Cora Ann?
And Mario, the cycle of violence and bloodshed. The exact charges against him have not been divulged. Boz is accused of being the trigger man in last week's van shooting in which one Hasidic teenager was killed and several others were wounded. President Clinton...
We're told in stable condition tonight.
A Long Island grandfather spent much of tonight in the hospital.
Allegedly fired shots into a van on the bridge last Tuesday, killing one yeshiva student and wounding 3 others. Boz's attorney says his client is innocent and is downplaying reports Boz already confessed to the crime.
As far as we're concerned, there is no confession. We have never received copies of any of the statements or videotapes recording any of the statements allegedly made by our client.
Suspects Hilal Mohammed and Bassam Rayati are also expected to be indicted for allegedly trying to get rid of the weapons and the car used in the shootings. And the leader of the Lubavitch Hasidim is in stable condition tonight in New York Hospital's intensive care unit. Grand Rabbi Menachem Schneerson was rushed to the hospital today after suffering seizures. Doctors say the 91-year-old Schneerson has been stabilized and should be released in a few days. Schneerson has also been hospitalized a year ago after suffering a stroke.
An historic murder just before the shooting.
And there are prayers for the Grand Rebbe, Menachem Schneerson, tonight. The 91-year-old Lubavitcher leader is hospitalized after suffering seizures related to the stroke he had 2 years ago. Faithful followers held vigil outside the hospital today for the man they believe is the Messiah. Rabbi Schneerson is in stable condition tonight, and hospital authorities say he may be released in just a couple of days. In other news, a quick-thinking law...
Homa Dina Rosenfeld moved the ceremony from Crown Heights to Stuyvesant Square Park near Beth Israel Hospital. Meanwhile, the vigil continues for the 91-year-old Grand Rebbe of Lubavitcher Judaism. Schneerson remains in critical but stable condition after suffering a stroke. And after
last night, that's what we are trying to do.
Today, this one had to be moved so that the bride and groom could be close to their spiritual leader. The couple had planned to take their vows at the Lubavitcher headquarters in Brooklyn. Instead, they married outside of Beth Israel Hospital, where Rebbe Menachem Schneerson is recovering tonight. He remains in critical condition.
There's much more ahead on
the hospital where the Rabbi Menachem Schneerson is critically ill, but not all the prayers are sorrowful. Today, a couple was married in the park across from Beth Israel Hospital. They said they wanted to be nearer to their spiritual leader. Rabbi Schneerson heads the worldwide Lubavitch organization, and many followers believe he is the Messiah. Schneerson suffered a massive stroke on Thursday and has been in critical condition since then.
When she was killed 30 years
Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, there was a traditional Lubavitcher Jewish wedding today. Yosef Katz and Medina Rosenfeld called their guests and told them they would wed in a park across from Beth Israel Hospital. A vigil continues at the hospital tonight. That's where the 91-year-old Grand Rebbe remains critically ill. He suffered a severe stroke last Thursday. Chinese restaurant workers...
But earlier today, there were some joyful sounds among the prayers for his recovery. Two followers of the rabbi were married today in the park across from Beth Israel Hospital. The couple said they wanted to be nearer to their spiritual leader, who suffered a massive stroke on Thursday. Many of the rabbi's followers believe he is the Messiah.
Around the world tonight, Muslims celebrate